Hello everybody, today we are going to study how to examine the lymph nodes. It is a very important topic because it is very important for ante-mortem examination and imperative for post-mortem examination. So we'll study how to examine the lymph nodes of different species of animals. Here you go. Okay, lymph nodes examination of food animals. First of all, the thing is that the lymph, what is lymph? Lymph is a fluid which supplies us oxygen and nutritive matter from the blood to the body tissues, and waste products from these tissues are removed. Presence of lymph around the tissue cells is maintained by slow aggregation of this fluid through capillary walls. Afferent lymphatics, vessels conveying lymph to a lymph node. Efferent lymphatics discharge eventually into a larger lymph collecting vessels. The direction of lymph flow in every case being towards the heart. The largest lymph collecting vessel is the thoracic duct. Lymph from posterior part of the body. देखो posterior part है उसके body से कहाँ से आता है? Lumbar, intestinal और thoracic head. ये कहाँ पर open होते हैं? Anterior vena cava से. और एंटीरियर पार्ट ऑफ द बॉडी से ट्रैकियल लिम्फ एंड टुवर्ड्स द जुगुलर लिम्फ नोड. ठीक है, जुगुलर वेन. ठीक है, तो ये हो गया आपके लिम्फ नोड से किस तरह से वो न्यूट्रिशन जो है वो सप्लाई करते हैं, ऑक्सीजन सप्लाई करते हैं ब्लड में और बॉडी टिश्यूज में. ठीक है, इस वजह से ये दिस इज व्हाई दीज लिम्फ नोड्स आर इंपॉर्टेंट. वन इज कॉल्ड द एफरेंट व्हिच कन्वेज फ्रॉम लिम्फ द लिम्फ फ्लूइड टू अ लिम्फ नोड, एंड एफरेंट लिम्फ नोड से लेकर दूसरे हार्ट तक. ठीक है. Now the lymph node. What are the lymph nodes actually? They are round masses of lymphoid tissue surrounded by a capsule of connective tissue found along the course of lymphatics, consist of a reticulum of connective tissue fibers in the meshes of which are contained numerous small rounded cells, the lymphocytes. Here you can see here. This is a photo of a lymph node. Okay, they have stained it blue, but it can also be white, grey, blue or black. Okay, here you can see we have the capsule, primary follicle, medullary folds, germinary center, paracortex, trabecula. ठीक है, we won't go into the details of the lymph nodes here because we are doing just examination of lymph nodes. So the color of lymph node is variable, white to white, grayish blue, almost black. In ox, mesentery lymph node of ox is black in color. Pigs में क्या होता है? Lymph nodes are lobulated, almost white. So pigs में lymph nodes are lobulated. Consistency of lymph nodes. Consistency is firmer rather than soft. It is generally oval in shape and somewhat compressed. ठीक है? तो lymph nodes are compressed and oval. Horses में lymph nodes are small and grape-like clusters, larger in young animals than in adults. So these are the main lymph nodes that we study during the examination, the ante-mortem and post-mortem examination of an animal. First we have the parotid submaxillary retropharyngeal. And disease condition is FMD, stomatitis, rinderpest, actinomycosis, actinobacillosis, cysticercosis. So you can see these disease condition in the lymph nodes. कि अगर ये वाले lymph nodes are there's an aberration in these lymph nodes, these are the disease conditions. And then we have lungs. Lungs में which are the lymph nodes? Bronchial lymph node and mediastinal lymph nodes. And what are the disease conditions that they are caused by? Pleurisy, pneumonia, tuberculosis. Heart में है we have mediastinal, traumatic, tubercular, pericarditis, petechial hemorrhages on epicardium, endocardium, cysticercosis, hydatidosis, flabbiness of heart. In liver we have the portal and hepatic fatty changes, actinobacillosis, abscess, cirrhosis, hydatid cyst, and fistulaceous. Esophagus, stomach and intestine, gastric and mesenteric. The serous surface for tuberculosis, actinobacillosis, penetration by any foreign body. ठीक है. In kidney it is renal, so it can tell about the kidney failure, any infection in kidney. And in spleen we have the splenic lymph node, which can show the tuberculosis infection, anthrax infection, and infarcts and hemorrhages. In uterus there are two lymph nodes. Which are the two lymph nodes in uterus? First is iliac and second is renal. So what does it show? These condition that the aberration of the iliac and renal lymph node show septic, metritis, evidence of recent parturition or pregnancy. Then there is ADA, supramammary, abscess, septic metritis, tuberculosis, and in testes we have superficial inguinal orchitis. Carcass के दूसरे there are other lymph nodes. Which are the other lymph nodes? Prescapular, popliteal, renal, cervical, intercostal, xiphoid or sternal, auxiliary, prepectoral, external or internal ilia. So what are the disease conditions? Bruises, injuries, abdominal and thoracic cavities for TB, poorness, emaciation and state of nutrition. So now you can see head in the head. Head you can see first we have the here you have the retropharyngeal lymph node which is number 1 which is present here. Retropharyngeal means behind the pharynx. Now second we have the parotid lymph node, and the third is submaxillary here. Here we have the submaxillary parotid, parotid or retropharyngeal. ठीक है? So we see that for tuberculous lesions. ठीक है? Mandibular lymph node. This is a mandibular lymph node and popliteal lymph node in the pig. These lymph nodes are sized in a systematic general disease is suspected. Hemal lymph node, which is deep red, almost black in color. It is oval and pea size. Okay? It shows the absence of efferent and efferented lymphatics and RBC disintegration. It is found in sheep, ox, horse, pigs, cattle, sheep. Okay? And they are swollen in the animals like anemia, cacatic conditions. Lymph nodes is absent in poultry. Okay? In poultry there are not lymph nodes. Lymph nodes, lungs, bronchial and mediastinal. So, on the number 1 you can see bronchial and the right uh, bronchial and the mediastinal is number 3. This is the mediastinal and these two are bronchial. Okay? Number 1, number 2 bronchial and number 3 is mediastinal. And liver, view and palpate entire surface through the gallbladder and to detect the flukes and the parasites. And for pigs, sheep and game animals, it is appropriate for parasites. The lymph nodes can tell us whether there is parasitic infection or not. So in liver, which lymph nodes are there? Portal and hepatic. Okay? Lumen, reticulum, omasum, abomasum. So what's the thing with them? First we open them in the mesenteric lymph nodes. Okay? Mesenteric lymph nodes chain. And what can we see there? We have the, for example, this is the liver. Okay, liver has the hepatic and portal lymph node. Spleen you can palpate, and stomach and spleen infection. We see mesenteric lymph nodes. So medial view of carcass with elephant lymph nodes in pig. So this diagram is very important. First we have, you can see here we start with the cervical. Here we start the cervical area. We have the cervical lymph nodes. Then we have lower cervical. Then we have near the sternum. We have the sternal lymph nodes. Then we have the intercostal and renal. Okay, in the intercostal spaces between near the lungs, they are the intercostal lymph nodes. Then we have the lumbar lymph node and renal lymph node, and then we have the sacral near the sacrum, sacral lymph nodes. Then we have ischiadic, superficial inguinal in the inguinal region, and in the iliac region, external iliac and internal iliac. Okay, so this is the medial view of carcass with elephant lymph nodes in pigs. Rigor mortis. The phenomenon of meat and muscle changes characterized by hardening and contraction of all voluntary muscles by loss in transparency of a surface of a muscle and stiffening of joint. What is rigor mortis? This is the phenomenon in which the muscle changes by the hardening and contraction of all voluntary muscles by loss in transparency of the surface of a muscle and stiffening of joints. So what happens during the onset of rigor mortis? First of all, the joints get stiffened, transparency is removed, muscle becomes dull, and temperature of carcass rises by 1.5 degrees Celsius, and then it drops to atmospheric temperature. Then we have the slaughter of animal, cessation of blood supply, oxygen supply. So what happens is generally what happens is glycogen it converts Glycogen in the formation of ATP, CO2 and water, the glycogen is converted into ATP, CO2 and water in normal glycolysis process in presence of oxygen. But when there is no oxygen, then the glycolysis goes through anaerobic glycolysis and converts to lactic dehydrogenase and reduces ATP production. And now the lactic acid is formed, which lowers the pH and lowers the ATP content. It becomes sarcoplasmic reticulum and calcium ions in the cell. Calcium ions bind to troponin and changes to tropomyosin, releases magnesium ions and ATPase enzymes. So what happens is that the ATP in actin and myosin binding sites are hydrolyzed, forming cross linkage, leading to stiffening of muscles causing rigor mortis. So here you can see what happens. What is happening is the here you can see slaughter happened. Okay, blood supply stopped and oxygen supply stops. Okay, due to which ATP reduces and glycolysis happens. Now glycogen is converted not to ATP and carbon dioxide and carbohydrate. It is converted to glycogen, converts to lactic acid, and it reduces the pH. Okay, pH becomes 5.5 to 5.8. Okay, then what happens is protein denaturation takes place, autolysis takes place, release of calcium ions, and the rigor mortis passes. Okay, so this is your rigor mortis and examination of lymph nodes. So I hope you liked the presentation of onset of rigor mortis in animals, and we also learned the examination of lymph nodes. Now it's time for a cup of tea. So here we go. We'll have some tea. Bon ciao.